Hello students, you all are welcome to this online learning platform with me. I am Shyam Panchal from Taksh-shila Model Senior Secondary School. Students, today I am here with chapter number 5 of your book, Moments. This chapter has been taken from class 9. The title of the chapter is The Happy Prince. Students, before I move on to the explanation of this chapter, The Happy Prince, let me just tell you something about the author of this chapter. This chapter has been written by Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde, who was a 20th century Irish playwright. He was a novelist, poet and critic also. He is regarded as one of the greatest playwrights of the Victorian era. The present chapter has a very important theme. It throws light on the social injustice. It also tells us about the loss of innocence and the healing power of love. We will read about this theme when we move on to the detailed explanation of the chapter. The loss of innocence, I'll tell you in whose face is it quite visible. Let me just give you a brief outline of the chapter first. And this brief outline we will discuss when I tell you about the title of the chapter, that is the Happy Prince. The Happy Prince is the story of a prince who was quite happy when he was alive. He did not know what sorrow and sufferings were. During his time, he was so happy that he did not ever see sorrow or grief. But when he died, what actually happened that his statue was built and it was erected in the middle of the town on a big pedestal. From that height, that happy prince, which was now a statue, could see his entire city. And what he saw the sufferings of the people, sufferings of men and women. Seeing this, he felt very bad and he wanted to help them. How did he want to help them? All of a sudden, what happened? There came a swallow. Swallow is actually a bird, and this is a migratory bird. This bird is actually moving to Egypt. It is moving to Egypt because Egypt is much warmer than the place where this bird is actually in now, right? So this bird is moving to Egypt, and all of a sudden this bird alights in between the legs of the happy prince. The bird sits there, and all of a sudden the statue talks to the bird, and statue seeks help from the bird. Statue wants the bird to pick out all the gold, all the sapphires, all the ruby, right, the precious stones from the statue and give them to the poor people. So this is the story. What actually happens in the end? The migratory bird swallow dies because of extreme cold, because this bird is not adaptable to cold weather. The happy prince, after the death of the bird, also dies, means the leaden heart of that statue all of a sudden breaks into two parts. The heart of the statue also dies. So this is the entire story. So what happens? The innocence, which is quite visible in the face of the bird, dies, means there is the loss of innocence, right? There is a healing power of love, right? Due to being in love with the statue, the bird does not even care for his own life, and he stays with the statue, right? And thus ends up by giving his own life. So let's now have a detailed explanation of the chapter from the beginning, and we will have this detailed explanation with these important points that I have written on board. There are 5 points. When we discuss these 5 points, we'll discuss the entire chapter. So students, the first point says the state of the statue of the prince. Sorry, the statue of the prince. So as I told you when I told you about the happy prince, right? There was a prince. He was very happy, right? When he was alive. When he was alive in his palace, sorrow was not allowed to enter. During his lifespan, he did not see what sorrow and suffering are. But when he died, what actually happened is a statue was erected in the middle of the town. His statue was placed on a pedestal. It was on such a height that the statue could see his entire city. The statue was built of fine gold, leaves of fine gold. The sword which the statue was holding had a ruby in its hilt. Hilt means the upper part of the sword. So, sorry, the handle of the sword. So, in the handle of the sword there was a ruby, and there were two sapphires. Sapphires means very precious stones in his eyes, right? Apart from all these things, the entire statue was gilded with gold. So this statue of Happy Prince looked so beautiful that it attracted the people towards it. So one day a bird swallow just comes flying over to the statue of the Happy Prince. It just alights in between the legs of the Happy Prince. This bird is actually going to Egypt because all of his friends has already gone to Egypt. And why are they going to Egypt? They are going to Egypt because Egypt is much warmer. And these birds are quite adaptable to warm weather. They are not adaptable to cold weather. So the bird comes and stays in between the legs of the Happy Prince. This bird finds this place a very better place, and the bird decides to spend the night, right? When the bird is just taking a rest, what happens? A drop of water falls onto his body. The bird now sees towards the sky, looks into the sky and finds that the sky is all clear. There is no cloud in the sky. So where has this drop of rain come from? The bird again senses another drop of rain, another drop of water. And this time the bird looks up and finds that the statue of the Happy Prince is crying. His cheeks, his eyes are wet, and the drops of water are rolling down his cheeks. The bird asks the prince, Happy Prince, why is he crying? The Happy Prince tells the bird that he is crying because he has seen what he should not see. He tells that when he was alive, he was very happy. In his palace, sorrow or suffering was not allowed to enter. He did not know what sorrow and sufferings were. But now, today, that he has been stationed on this large platform, on this high platform, from where he can see his entire city. He sees that in his kingdom, in his city, the people are not happy. They are suffering from poverty, right? So he just cries because he cannot bear this suffering of his people. So what happens? This Happy Prince asks the bird not to leave him and to stay with him for one night. He asks the swallow to help him. How? Let us now move on to point number 3. Point number 3, the people whom swallow helps. So actually the Happy King helps the people by giving his valuable things, right? But swallow is the messenger. So the Happy Prince asks the bird to be his messenger and to help the people. He is watching who are in pain, who are suffering, right? So the statue of the Happy Prince tells the bird that far from here, in the middle of the city, there is a woman, and she is very sad and she is very weak. She is very sad because her son, who has fever, her ailing son, is weeping because of hunger, and she has nothing to give her son more than the water of the river. She is also doing what? She is embroidering flowers on a satin gown for the queen's maids of honor. And she is very weak, her face is quite pale, and she is unable to do the work because her son is in pain. So the Happy Prince requests the bird swallow to pick out what? The red ruby from his sword's hilt and fly away with it and give it to the seamstress. The bird swallow does the same, and he just does what? He just picks out the red ruby from the sword hilt and he goes away with it and throws the red ruby onto the table when the seamstress is quite tired and she is asleep. The boy who is just lying in a corner on a bed and he is just asking for oranges, but his mother has nothing to give him, The bird, when flies back to the happy prince, flaps its wings when he is just over the boy's head, and this flapping of the wings gives the boy pleasure because it fans the cool air. When the bird comes back to the statue of the happy prince, the bird feels quite good. The bird feels quite warmer. The happy prince says that he is feeling warmer because he has done an act of charity, he has done a good job. So this is how one night spends. In the morning, the bird goes to the places far and wide, and when the sun rises up, the bird comes back to the statue and tells the happy prince that now he's planning to he's planning to go to Egypt. But this time again, the happy prince requests the bird not to leave him and to stay with him one more night. The bird swallow accedes to this request of the happy prince, and this time the happy prince tells her that he is watching another person, and this is a young man. He is sitting in his garret. Garret means cottage, and by profession he is a playwright, and he is doing what? He is writing a play, but he is unable to write. The reason is that he does not have a fire, right? He does not have a fire. He does not have a fire to keep himself warm. There is no fire in his grate, right? So what happens? The statue of the happy prince requests the bird swallow to take out one sapphire from his eye, from one of his eyes, and give it to the playwright so that he can complete his play for the director of the theatre. The swallow does the same thing, and then the happy prince sees what? A match girl who is just below the square, and she's crying because she has let her match boxes fall into the gutter. She's crying because her father is a very cruel person, and she thinks that her father will beat her if she does not buy, or if she does not bring some money home, right? So happy prince is quite sad to see this girl crying, and the happy prince requests the bird swallow to take out another sapphire from the other eye and give it to the match girl. The swallow does the same thing. He just takes out the sapphire from the other eyes and gives it, means drops it down into the palm of the girl's hands, right? So the girl becomes happy and she goes back home, right, happily. Happy prince is now all blind. The bird swallow now feels very sorry for the happy prince because he's no longer able to see. Now the bird swallow decides not to leave the prince ever. The bird says that he will never leave the happy prince because he's unable to see. So the swallow bird stays with the happy prince and tells him the stories of the far off lands from the top of the statue. One day, the statue of the happy prince requests the swallow to go and fly over the city and tell which people are in pain. So the bird swallow just flies over the city and goes to various places. The bird sees that the rich people are making merry in their beautiful houses. They are very happy in their houses. The bird sees that the beggars are sitting at the gates and that they are begging, right? There are many people who are suffering from poverty. There are many children who do not have even food to eat, right? And the bird also sees what below the archway of a bridge, he sees two boys who are just lying cuddled up to each other in order to keep themselves warm. Seeing this, the bird swallow comes back to the happy prince and tells the story of these two boys, or the people whom he sees, right, during his visit to the town. So finally the happy prince, the statue of the happy prince, asks the bird to take out leaf by leaf the gold from the statue and give this gold to the poor people, the people who are suffering. So students, this is what happens in the 4 point, that the bird swallow just does what? It takes out all the gold from the statue of the happy prince and distributes it among the people who are suffering, right? Now let us now move on to the explanation of point number 4, swallow's death. What happens then? So finally the statue of the happy prince, which ever used to be very beautiful, it looked very attractive, has now been turned into very dull and very useless, right? It is no longer attractive, it is no longer beautiful, right? So what happens, and by this time what happens, that the winter season sets in, the streets and the places are covered with snow, even the frost comes in, and this season, this atmosphere, this climate is actually not suitable for the bird swallow. And what happens, that the bird swallow dies, right? For few days it tries to he tries to keep himself alive by giving to the bakers and just picking the crumbs, right, and keeping himself warm, but finally the bird swallow dies. The bird swallow before dying does what? He just hops onto the shoulder of the happy prince and tells into his ear that now he is going. When happy prince asks him where he is going, or if he is going to Egypt, the happy prince tells that if he is going to Egypt, he is very happy for him. But the bird swallow tells that he is not going to Egypt, he is going to die. Death is the brother of sleep, he tells. Right. The happy prince feels very sad. All of a sudden the bird dies and falls into the feet of the happy prince. Immediately what happens? There is a cracks sound from the heart of the happy prince, which was made of lead. So this leaden heart of the statue just breaks into two parts. There is a strong snapping sound, crack sound. So this is where the story ends, but after this there is a small account also. So the following day what happens, the mayor and his councillor, right, the mayor and the councillor of the town just come on a visit, and they see this statue of the happy prince. They find this happy prince's statue is not in ruins, sorry, is now in ruins, and it is no longer beautiful. All of the gold, both of his sapphires and the ruby, red ruby from his sword hilt, all have gone. So the mayor and his councillor just decide to smash the statue of the happy prince, right? So the same thing is done. The statue is broken, and it is taken away for being melted, to recast it into some other form, right? So what happens when this statue is to be melted down? The workmen who do this work, they just take out that leaden heart, calling it useless and that it is not subjected to be melt. So they just throw it away in a heap of garbage, where the dead body of the bird was lying. So this is where the chapter ends, but there is small account also. What happens, God asks one of his angels that go to the earth and find two most precious things. So the angel comes down to earth and he picks those two things. One is the dead body of the bird, second is the leaden heart of the statue. When the angel gives these two precious things to God, God becomes very happy, and he says, indeed these are the most valuable things in this world. He says that this bird will beautify his garden by singing sweet songs, and this statue will be in his palace, right? So this is how the story ends, but this story gives us a message. What is the message? That if the message is that if you are just in a way to help people, right, you just need to suffer a lot. Maybe you just end up with your own life, right? Means the path of honesty, the path of goodness is not so easy. The path of goodness is not a bed of roses, right? So you must be ready to face the adverse circumstances when you are just in the way of doing good to others, right? So there is the happy prince is actually the epitome of honesty, whereas the bird is actually the epitome of love, right? So with this, students, this chapter comes to an end, and I'll be back very soon with a new chapter. I want all of you to go through this chapter once again, because there are a lot of dialogues between the happy prince and the bird swallow, right? And uh, in this video you will also have some questions, which questions are to be answered by you as per your homework, right? So students, thank you very much for watching this video, and very soon I'll be back. Till then, be happy, keep smiling.